Coming to you live from the middle of nowhere, this is the Wingin podcast, a podcast with no specific genre. If you enjoy the podcast, make sure you hit the follow button on the Facebook page and search up our other socials. Just search for the Wingin podcast. We want to thank our sponsor, Esports Certified. To enjoy 10% off, go to their store and click the link below. Enjoy. Alright, we're on.
Gucci.
Wingin podcast, episode number 13. Lucky 13.
Lucky.
Welcome back, guys. It's been a few episodes since you've been on the show.
It has,
Yeah, what episode were we on? Like
two
or three?
Yeah, it has been a few. It's been hard to sort of line up when you guys aren't working and when I'm not working. It's difficult.
Different time zones and all.
Yeah, it does make it difficult. Today, fairly open sort of topics. Yeah, we did want to talk about the new planet or exoplanet that NASA's found, Proxima b. Yeah, it's sort of open for discussion. I thought it was fairly interesting. It's only...
I think it's some certainly pretty interesting shit. Like, to think about a potentially habitable planet in general is fairly surreal.
Mm. Well, it's what you see in movies and TV shows. It's nothing you really actually think about until it happens.
Well, the next stage for humans is to colonize planets, really.
I'd agree.
Because, I mean, there's still a lot we could do with Earth potentially, but the next stage realistically is to colonize another planet, really.
Yeah. Well, I was just looking, because I just got the planet up on Google. It's only 4.25 light years away.
Yeah. So it's pretty well a next door neighbor.
Yeah. If we could have light speed travel, which we can't yet, that's that you can go there and back potentially.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which
100%.
is fairly wacky.
I mean, next door neighbor in terms of the cosmos, but I mean, obviously when we're talking about the technology that we have now, it's still quite a voyage to get there, being light years.
Well, you always hear about Alpha Centauri, for instance, but that's in another galaxy, isn't it?
Yeah.
And,
I'm pretty sure it's Andromeda.
This is its own solar system within the Milky Way.
Yeah, it's
so
right here.
It's actually, in the terms of space, it's really close to us.
It is.
Because the only planet besides this that we have is Mars, but we have to terraform that one, so it's not actually habitable right now.
Yeah. And I mean, even still, things are still developing with colonizing Mars, and I think that is probably the first step in terms of the big leap towards colonizing other planets, because it is so close. If something goes wrong or it doesn't turn out to be what we thought it was, then we can just travel back. It's not that much, but when you're talking about light years, it's
a trip. You go there, you go in there for a sole purpose. If it goes, I mean, you have to send a probe first, obviously. You have to send an unmanned mission.
Yeah.
They've done on Mars countless times. You just send a little robot over there, and he'd go, right, how's this place look? Because even reading here, they think the planet might be tidally locked, which a tidally locked planet doesn't spell especially great for humans.
Yeah. Well, a tidal locked planet, for people that don't know, is so the Earth spins, right, and then it orbits around the sun. A tidally locked planet means one side of the planet is always facing the star. So one side never sees the sunlight. One side never leaves it, which means
it's perpetually dark and perpetually sun on one side.
Yeah, which sounds bad.
You would have a planet like that is so interesting because you'd have two different ecosystems.
Yeah.
You'd have one that needs the sun to survive, and then the other side would obviously develop to be not
nocturnal.
needing. Would not to even wildlife.
Yeah. Well, think about planets like we know on Earth, planets need sunlight.
Yeah.
But if you have no sun, it doesn't mean that there's no plant life necessarily, because we don't know how alien planets could work. For all we know, they need I don't know, nitrogen. They breathe nitrogen instead of oxygen. We don't actually know.
Yeah.
But I mean, it opens up, even you could say, it's a bad thing, but it opens up certain avenues, I suppose. Think about solar panels.
Yeah.
24 hours a day.
Yeah, for sure.
Of just energy. I mean, but you know, I don't think anyone really wants to live in that kind of situation.
Yeah, I think the biggest problem that we face with trying to colonize planets is the length of time it takes to get there,
Yeah.
or because when a colony is first established, they either have to have so many supplies go with them initially, or they've got to be continuously supplied as time goes on.
Mm.
And even if they did take everything to initially get them started, there's probably more than likely cases where we'd still have to send them some sort of stuff every now and again.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I feel like you can kind of draw a contrast to like even just colonization, you know, a couple hundred years ago. You say like say take colonizing Australia, like they sent a group, but like if they went horribly wrong, they would have all died. Like, if it went that horribly wrong, they would all be dead and it would be over. And whenever the next group came, they would have been like, oh shit, they're all dead. Like, what do we do now?
Yeah.
And like, I mean, sure, you're talking about months instead of years, but like it's the same concept. I feel.
Well, with the current technology, to get what is it, 4 point something light years away, to Proxima B, I think that's a couple thousand years. At our
it's a long
speeds.
time. It's a long time.
It's like we'd almost need to develop some sort of light speed technology.
Well, there is.
I don't know. I don't think we're that close to that.
I've seen NASA has funded research into like what do they call it? A warp, not a warp drive, or maybe it is a warp drive, something like that.
Where a magnetic field drive or whatever.
Yeah,
so
where it bends space.
The science behind it would be you'd bend the time around you.
Yeah.
Because just going at light speed's not realistic, because you would just shatter everything. Like, we don't have a material that would withstand that speed.
And even still, the amount of pure energy it would take to build up to that speed.
Yeah.
It's, you know, and then you've got to slow down again at the other side. It's not exactly viable. I mean,
See, that's the problem with it. Like, once you're in motion in space, you're always in motion until something stops you. If you're going at, just
that
say
quick.
we build a thing that goes at 1 light speed.
Your deceleration.
You have to have a deceleration force just as great, if not greater.
Yeah, well, that's Newton's second law or third law.
You have to like start your acceleration, get to your speed, and then like 5 years before you get there, you have to start decelerating.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, even still, like if you think about it, with rockets, the rockets, like what's it called? The thrust, it isn't linear. There's only so much amount of thrust that a rocket can produce. So even if we had an unlimited amount of fuel, you can only go a set speed because the acceleration is capped, which is why
even in space, even
in the vacuum of space, which is why
you'll hit a velocity and you'll just stay that velocity forever in space.
Which I guess is why we're developing the warp drive or whatever it's called.
Attempting to develop something at the very.
I feel like we're a long way off of actually
we'll
getting
never
a breakthrough in that technology, or at least I don't think we'll see that in our lifetime.
That brings to argue how far away is it before we need to seriously get a move on getting off planet?
Well, I think we were stunted.
How we handle it.
It's the argument of global warming.
Since the 70s or 80s, I think we've been stunted in our space travel because NASA just got very underfunded from the government, and NASA was basically our forefront of space travel at that stage. Because the Soviet Union obviously fell apart, and their space agency, I don't know what happened to it. Like, I haven't heard anything about it since the space race, basically. And then we've only just picked it up again, and it's solely because of Elon Musk. Because he came in and invented all this new technology that allowed us to do reusable stuff with our spacecraft, and just made it so much more efficient and less costly for us to do it. So now NASA's going on it again, because when you stop doing something, you dwindle any progress that you have in that area. Even in some location, in history, for instance, there's been like different instances where people were so proficient at something and then they stopped doing it, and they've completely forgotten how to do it because they just didn't do it for long enough, you know? So it's a good thing we've picked it up again. Otherwise, I doubt we would have had the same scenario because of writing and records, computers, and all that kind of stuff. But that just goes to show, you know, like we should be grateful for the progress we've had recently in
Well,
space travel.
Do you think that NASA has sort of relightened into research because Elon Musk has taken it upon himself to do it, and the research that he's developed in terms of rockets and the research that he's done with the warp drive and colonizing other planets? Do you think that sort of spark NASA to be like, shit, like we've got to actually do something?
100%.
I'd say that it'd be more about the government more than NASA. Honestly, I think because when you get down to the core of it, at the end of the day, whoever gets to Mars first is going to be the richest human being known to known to ever.
Yeah.
They will be guaranteed the amount of resources they'll have at hand, the amount of like people that will want to do this, the amount of people that pay good money to go do this and stuff like that. They're going to be the richest man alive. And personally, I'd say the American government would never let one man have that privilege.
See, I think the problem with that, with our current technology level, just say, because I think Elon Musk wants to do it in the next 25 years or something. Isn't that right?
Not even that. I'm pretty sure it's sooner.
Yeah.
Like he's already like asking for volunteers and shit.
Yeah.
Look, I can't see us getting so good at building new technology for space travel in that short amount of time that someone could have physical control over another planet. Because the thing is they're always going to have an autonomy at our current level. Because I don't know exactly how long it is, but it's quite a long travel from here to Mars. Because I think it was close to a week or something just to get to the moon for the astronauts, wasn't it?
I'll Google it real quick.
Even like, it's one of those things where they've got to be real careful about who they select, because they could have the brightest minds going, but if they're too old, they could die on the travel.
That's actually not bad. Because I got the answer. So the spacecraft departs Earth at a speed of about 24,600 miles per hour. The trip to Mars will take about 7 months.
Oh.
Yeah, so
that's pretty viable.
But it is still, if for a person to have direct monetary control over something like that, like the only thing I could see him controlling is maybe tickets, like buying of the tickets to get to Mars. But actually, like profits from Mars would be very hard to control, because it would have to be, if not fully autonomous, at least semi-autonomous.
Do you think that the Mars colony would have their own seat in the UN after it gets... they have...
Well, I don't even know. The UN...
who would control it? Would they have their own government?
Not initially. Eventually they would, yes. But they would have, because they would have to. They would just have to. It's just, that's the natural evolution of
then the
society.
question is who who ends up owning it? Like, let's say Musk gets there first, right? You'd say Musk then has claim on that area of Mars, at least.
I would say...
Well, actually, I don't know if that is possible, because I think there was a charter. I don't know how this works for private businesses, but I'm pretty sure that there's a charter saying that no country can own any planetary bodies.
Yeah, right.
Well, would they then have to go out and become their own planet, I guess, like their own country, and then, have their own government, their own rights, rules, regulations, laws?
Well, as I was saying, like early on, they would have such a huge dependency on Earth.
Yeah.
But as they progressed, as they progressed, 100%. If I was on Mars and I was 2 generations into living on Mars, I had not even seen Earth.
Yeah.
Why the hell would I want to listen to these guys on this other planet? Like, this is our planet. Fuck off.
So this is pretty interesting. I've just seen a.
You know what I'm saying, though?
Yeah.
I've just found this thing stating that there's actually a space treaty. We have an international space treaty. Article 2 of the Outer Space Treaty states outer space, including the moon and other celestial bodies, is not subject to national appropriation by claim or sovereignty by means of use or occupation. In short, nobody can claim Mars.
Well, no, because that treaty specifically says national body, because a private company is not a national body.
So they could
technically that is a bit of a loophole.
Yeah.
But then they would probably argue that the company comes under the national of, so Elon Musk would probably be American, USA.
But it's privately owned, though. It
is privately owned. And
but he pays his tax. But he pays his taxes for those companies in the US. That's the argument you would make.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the argument you would make for that.
Yeah. But I feel like if someone actually did have the technology to literally, because like this article would have been made ages ago, like when like they were like,
yeah,
America
it would have
been,
probably been done during the 60s or
like
the
America
50s
would
or
have been
something.
scared that Russia was going to claim the moon or some shit. That's what would have been.
They were right to be scared. Russia, if you look at a list of things, Russia won everything up until the moon landing, and that was the last thing on the list. And then America's just like, yeah, we won, guys. But they only did one thing out of like 10.
But no, like it's I don't know, it's an interesting point, and I suppose it goes hand in hand with like Proxima B and the fact that like we'll presumably colonize Mars first, but then the first trip that goes over there, like, is supposing that we can actually live there.
Yeah.
Like, who owns that? Because there's definitely no way they're getting help.
Well,
Like,
would they send their own governing bodies across with
They'd
them?
have to.
The best thing, the only thing I can think of that would work with everybody working in a mutual way is to have a UN-based government that basically governs all the planets equally. But
like an overseer of the galaxy?
Kind of like
the Galactic Emperor.
No, not a single person. Like you'd have like the same amount of delegates for each planet, or like based on your population. Basically, like democracy now.
Yeah.
Not an empire.
The Galactic Empire.
We'll build the Death Star or something.
Well, then that would have to be after a certain time though, because if you want to send the whole governing body across, that would just be more seats on the spacecraft over there.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like you wouldn't do it. You wouldn't do it instantly. You would do it after the colony hits a certain threshold.
Yeah, like a certain generation with a certain amount of sustainability.
Yeah.
When it hit self-sustainability, you'd send over a governing body.
Yeah.
But that opens up a whole discussion about, like, you've gone there, you've made this place self-sustainable, and some whack job from Earth is coming along and saying, well, I'm in charge, or we're in charge now. And, like, you know...
Well, I think if I was that person that went over there and built the colony, I would want to certainly have some sort of power of where it goes in the future.
Well, see, the thing is that
my own members from my planet. Like, it's my planet now. I've been here and I've made this place habitable with all me and my mates, me and my couple tens of thousands of friends. Like,
you have a lot of friends.
Well, no, but like you know what I mean. You know what I mean? Like you've all gone to a new planet, not knowing what to do, and then all of a sudden made it livable.
I would think that
back job comes along and says, "Hey, you have to listen to my laws."
Well, see, the thing is that you got to think about is every single planet that is colonized, because of all the different ethnicities, religions, whatever that go onto that planet, that would almost form like a pseudo culture where it just becomes its own culture. So it's a different culture than any culture on Earth. So that would actually be their own culture. So when an Earth person goes to that planet, for instance,
they would essentially be aliens.
They're basically aliens, especially once that planet has its own kids born there.
Yeah.
Because they will be native to that planet.
Well, would they? Do you think that they would speak different languages, or would they still keep on?
I'd say English is probably the predominant, regardless of whatever happens. I think no matter what happens anywhere, English is going to be the main language. It's just how it's been.
What do you think they'd have their own language?
Because of the way that the English dominated
they'd get their own
early
slang.
culture,
Own slang.
Yeah, they would get their own slang. They'd basically just be like their own version of English, or.
And they name all the species and name all the stuff that they find. On a new planet,
that's not saying that they're
which would technically make it like a part of a new language.
The interesting thing to think about though is what Chris is just building on there. Eventually, we would both start off with English, but over separation in time, they'd probably develop their own version of English. Because for instance, America and England. Both the same language, different stuff in that language.
You even throw Australia into the mix, and like, sure, we say.
Well, see, Australia's weird because we take English for both America and England while also building our own. You know, so it's like
we are a butchered language.
We are we have a bit of everything, really, with all the English languages.
I openly admit to butchering the English language.
A couple of beers deep and butcher it real good.
Yeah.
But you would, in that scenario, like you still speak English, but it'd be like a sub like type of English.
like a different,
Yeah.
not
It
a
would be
dialect.
like a...
Yeah, different
Yeah.
dialect. Yeah.
Well, it's kind of like how you have like in China you have Mandarin and then you have Cantonese, like like
Yeah,
that
they're
kind
all
of thing.
similar, but they're different.
Yeah.
Same,
Yeah.
but
So I
different.
suppose it'd be like that.
Yeah, it'd be very
I'd
similar to
say.
that, yeah.
Yeah, and I think it'd have to. I mean, in
Yeah,
the end of the
that's just-
day, you are so separated. You basically are a different entity. at
They
that
would
stage.
form their own culture, their own, like, all that kind
Do you
of stuff.
do you think that there would be communication between the planets? Because obviously,
Oh, 100%.
well, the
It'd
problem
just
is
take a
that
long time.
messages take a long time to get there. Do you think that?
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, to start
Well-
with, there would have to be, but
If we're talking about the colonization of something like Proxima B, then we've developed, obviously, a faster than light speed of travel.
Yeah.
So you would assume our messages are also traveling at a speed like that, or we would probably deploy beacons along the route that would zip the message along faster, so messages
Yeah.
become a lot quicker. If we're talking about like a Mars settlement, I'm not too sure how long a radio signal takes to get to Mars, but I couldn't imagine it'd be longer than a month or two.
I would think like hours.
Well,
I'm trying to think. I'm pretty sure The Martian, like the movie, had fairly accurate time.
That's a
like,
great movie. I love
messages.
that movie.
Oh, it's such a good movie. It's one of my
Okay.
favorites, actually.
5 to 20 minutes.
Oh, there we go.
Oh, Jesus.
That's
So
quick.
it's actually
That's
it's
quick.
actually
Think about
pretty
it, 'cause, but we do have the ability to send things at like roughly the speed of light. Like take like
Well, a message is a lot easier to send than a shuttle
Yeah.
because it's
Especially when you have
yeah.
a when
it's
you
a, it's a
especially when
sound. It's a wave of
and
particles.
not to mention you can't hit a rock and die.
even
exactly. You don't
even
have to
like
worry about safety concerns.
and even like the fiber optic cables that we have sending messages across the globe is pretty well instant.
Yeah,
Yes.
exactly.
So
And with
like-
Elon Musk's new Starlink, which is meant to be the fastest thing.
yeah, I'm really excited for that
Everywhere.
actually.
Yeah,
Really
so
excited for that.
You keep building on technology like that, and just gets out of it. Like
Yeah.
Starlink
Out there.
becomes Planet Link.
Yeah, well, actually,
exactly.
yeah,
It would.
It would.
Yeah.
I think the
Especially-
biggest,
especially if he was
biggest.
the one to do it. If he was the one to make it to Mars first, he'd
Yeah.
say, right, well, I'm using my tech. I'm
Yeah.
gonna use what I made.
First
And
things
I'm
first,
gonna-
internet.
Yeah, first things first.
Yeah.
Get internet and then play some COD.
Well, internet is basically.
Imagine the
God, I'd
ping.
hate to think about. Yeah, I was about to say. I'd hate to think what the ping is like.
no, 1v1 on Mars, bro.
He's in the shuttle sitting on Mars and he's googling how to colonize Mars.
You know, I wonder how
Like
they would
20
do-
minutes.
I wonder how they would do history classes here on Earth. Like, how much history would we learn in schools about a colonized planet? You know.
A lot, I'd say.
Well, I don't think
Prob-
it's really come up in. Well, no one's really thought about it until the last sort of 20 years.
Yeah, and all of a sudden
Yeah,
everyone's
well,
like, holy
yeah.
crap, this is possible. Like, we can
Is
actually
that, yeah, it's
do it.
possible.
Well, it's kind of like the rule with computers in the fact that, like, what, every 2
Every
years...
4 years.
Four
I think it
years.
is,
Yeah, every
yeah.
4 years, technology...
Computer power doubles.
doubles.
Yeah.
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 And I'd say, along with computer power doubling, I'd say scientific endeavors could also follow the same suit, especially seeing as how much we rely on computers to do a lot of our stuff. If you've got a more powerful computer, you can do so much more with it, especially calculating how to get to Mars.
Well, look at
Here's a really interesting thought. What do we think about having potential AIs on stuff like spaceships and stuff like because
so something like.
developing like we have very basic level AI at the moment.
Are you talking about
But-
Interstellar, where they have those the AI with them to help them, like the
In
bots?
what, sorry?
In Interstellar, have you seen that movie? They have Case and Tars, the robots.
I have seen that movie, but
Great movie.
it was a long time ago,
Such a good
and
movie.
I also did not like that movie.
I love it. It's so good. The docking scene is
Ah,
something
yes.
of just
I watched-
absolute.
I watched a video about Hans Zimmer, the musical developer for that
Yeah.
movie, about how he developed all the soundtracks, and there's so much more to it than what you think. It's incredible. Anyway, we diverge. We
We
diverge.
did,
Yeah.
we did.
AI.
Yeah, AI.
I think that it's important if we want to progress as quickly as what everyone expects, but in terms of how reliable they can be is up to the technology we put into them.
Yeah, like the problem with like AI is that a bug or a virus is so easily to upload into any into any computer system. So for there to be an AI in control of some ship systems or something along those lines, if we ever go down that line,
especially something like guidance and stuff where there's no room for error.
Yeah. Well, let's think about it this way: if we send, say we don't quite get to light speed, but we get something close to it, and it still takes us like 1,000 years, or maybe even light speed, because 4 light years away, like something like that would take like
say we got 90% the speed of light.
Yeah, and it takes like 30, 40, 50, 60 years to get there.
Still viable.
Do we have to go on sleeper ships or something like that and have an AI control the flight path?
Well,
like how
can we develop that technology where we can essentially sleep and wake up in 50 years time, but we're not a day older?
I think cryo sleep is probably one of the more possible technologies in terms of interstellar space travel.
Because I don't know much about real life cryo stuff.
Like there's a certain frog that literally can freeze to death. Its heart can stop. Everything in its body stops moving. Its brain stops working. Its heart stops working. It essentially sits there in its little ice bubble, and it doesn't age because nothing in it moves. Everything stops. And then the moment the sun comes up and thaws it, its heart restarts and its brain starts firing, and it just walks away.
That's cool.
Nothing happened.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Because it is.
But
it is
every
thing.
kind of like scan or sensor on it, you think it's dead.
Yeah, you would. You would think it's dead. But it's like, a lot of things we've done in technology has come from animals. Like, you look at animals and go, hey, how's that work? Figure it out, and then
Yeah, especially like medicinal stuff. A lot of it's from animals and plants.
Well, do we think that technology can be developed though? Cryo sleep?
I believe cryo sleep is.
Do we have any preemptive technology in that at all? Like, I don't know anything about real life. Like, you see it in shows and stuff all the time, but
I don't know whether any research, like significant research, is going into it. But I think if we're looking at interstellar travel over a long time, if we can't develop this. Like the warp drive that we're talking about, if that falls through, then I definitely think we need to look at cryo sleep or something like that, because there's no other way you can do it.
Yeah.
Oh, so here we go. NASA, in partnership with SpaceWorks Enterprises, has been developing a cryogenic sleep chamber for astronauts. The cryo sleep technology works by lowering an astronaut's body temperature to 80 to. That's not even that. It only drops your core temperature by like 4 degrees.
The trick is that you got to lower it enough so that your body's functions slow down, so you age slower and everything.
Yeah.
But you don't want to lower it too low that you get hypothermia and die. So you got to be real careful.
It seems like not much, like 3 or 4 degrees. But you think about hypothermia, that's a lot.
In your body temperature, it's a lot. Because what's your average body? Like 36 degrees or something?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
Well, even if it goes up or down half a degree, like that's enough to get like a bad flu, like put you in hospital.
Yeah. Yeah, so 1 degree, you can be sick as a dog. So yeah, you think about that.
When you're talking 3 or 4 degrees, that's quite a drastic step.
Yeah.
Yeah, so right, the problem they have at the moment is lowering your body temperature and like not causing brain damage. Because everything else is kind of okay, but your brain gets cold, your brain stops getting oxygen, and then, like, as we know, you don't breathe, your brain dies. Like, if you sit there and you can't breathe for 5 minutes, even if you get resuscitated, you could have major brain damage.
So you'd have to have some kind of like breathing apparatus, but breathe for you.
You'd have to
but it'd have to breathe. It'd have to breathe slowly enough that it doesn't interrupt your other slowed down systems. Because you don't want to kill yourself with too much oxygen.
I suppose. I mean. No, yeah, I mean, I guess, I wouldn't have a clue at how the hell to do cryo sleep. I mean,
that's why people get paid lots of money to do it.
Exactly. But like, I feel like it's certainly possible.
Yeah.
I think we in the relatively near future, like when I say that in the grand scheme of things, I mean like 100, 200 years.
Yeah.
I feel like that's near future when you're talking about space travel.
When you're talking about history in general, that's especially. If we're going by the estimated time that they have currently of how old the universe is, then that's nothing of a time span.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, the universe is... Well, even the Earth is 4.55 billion years old. Only the Earth. Like, that 4.5 billion years is uncomprehendable. And that's only Earth. Talking about the whole universe.
Yeah. Do you guys think that there are other life forms out there?
Oh, absolutely. I do.
And let me put this out as well with that question. Do you think they are more advanced, or do you think we are actually the first advanced species in the universe?
That's the thing that I find really interesting, is that everyone always thinks about aliens and goes, oh, they're big, you know, they're going to come kill us, they're going to have flying spaceships.
Yeah.
It could just be a bug.
Yeah.
Like, it could literally just be a microscopic organism.
Well, I think when we talk about alien life, we generally mean like sentient alien life, which would mean they're able to build technology and actually know of themselves.
But they could just still be like, you know, cavemen.
See, I think I've always thought
that's the thing
that from
Sorry, you go.
A scientific, like I think about it scientifically. I think that the comprehension and the size of the observable universe, I believe that it's too big for something else not to be out there. But until we have concrete evidence, like we've picked up radio pings and suspicious things and everything out in the cosmos from our probes that we've sent out.
We don't know nearly not anything about the galaxy. They could be anything, you know.
Yeah. So I think that the universe is too big for there not to be something there. But until we have concrete evidence, I'm not sure.
So you believe something's there. Do you believe that they are less or more advanced than us, would you say? Or about the same, do you reckon?
I think that this whole idea of being advanced is something that us as humans have sort of crafted. Like, for aliens, their idea of advanced could be something totally different to us. Yeah. So I think it's a difficult question, but in terms of our own comprehension of what we think is advanced, I believe that there could be more advanced civilizations out there.
I think what I mean by advanced is, like, have they got to a stage of space travel yet?
Like interstellar travel with
not necessarily interstellar travel,
type
just
2
being able to
Kardashev
get into space.
Like type 2 Kardashev civilizations, things like that.
Well, no, just the ability for them to get off their planet into space, basically.
Yeah, I believe it's certainly possible.
It's definitely possible. I mean, it's hard to say that anything is impossible. Yeah. I think when you talk about the grand scale of things, there's got to be something out there that has grasped satellites at the very least.
Something.
With the amount of effort we've put into trying to communicate outside of our solar system, even our galaxy. And I can't imagine that if we were the only life form, that we would be the only ones trying to do that.
Yeah, well, I think an interesting point is...
So what my personal belief is that we could very likely be the first advanced species.
To reach outside of our planet.
Yeah.
So you're saying that there is stuff out there, but we're the first ones to try and make contact.
Oh, look, I wouldn't be surprised if there was stuff out there. With the size of the galaxy, it's more than likely. But I also probably would not be too surprised if there wasn't anything out there, really, because the chance of life is so small.
I think an interesting...
And if you actually look at Earth's making, the stuff that brought about Earth as it is now is just so unlikely, really.
Have you seen the video about the pyramids? And how
Which one?
And how they were built and things like that, and it's
like the Pyramid of Giza line up with stars and stuff.
Oh, that's the other thing. Like, do you think that it's possible we were put here by another species? Because that's a thing I've heard about of how to explain the pyramids and stuff like that.
Religion as well.
Yeah, and religion. It would explain a lot of religions. Because people back then would have thought any sort of... we go back there with any of our technology now, like even a phone, they won't understand how the hell that works, you know?
Yeah.
They'll think that's magic.
It's certainly been explored. Like, that idea has certainly been explored in media.
Yeah.
Like Halo, that's how it works. Even in Alien, like the new Prometheus and stuff, that gets dabbled in.
I think it's possible. I mean, I don't
It's
know.
really possible.
I'm an atheist. I don't believe in any religion, but I think that scientifically, I mean, I don't. It's sort of tough. It's up to the individual.
Yeah.
But I don't know if I 100% believe in evolution either.
Well, that's the thing. I don't think I believe in like the Big Bang Theory necessarily. I don't. I personally don't think
Would you be
anyone
more of a is it an agnostic then?
More agnostic.
It's where you don't necessarily believe in the Big Bang, but you don't necessarily believe in any sort of God, but you think that there is something out there that has created us.
I personally don't believe.
Whether it's an omniscient being or whether it's just a freak.
No, I just
accident.
personally don't believe that anyone actually knows how the universe was created. I don't think
Well,
we're
that's
able to
100%.
comprehend.
Well,
I
this
don't think
is-
we're
Our
able to
brain can't
comprehend.
comprehend it. Yeah.
Well, this is where the whole argument about when people take psychedelics and get in contact with these omniscient beings, are they our creators?
Or are they
You know?
just tripping balls?
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
Yeah.
100%.
one knows.
In my opinion, they're just tripping balls.
Well, I don't know what I believe. Like, I've never done psychedelics before, so I
But
can't.
if
I
you're
can't
a
really
god,
say.
why the hell would you only show yourself to someone who's high as a kite? It makes no
Well,
freaking sense.
maybe it's the only.
It's a test. It's a test. Will you believe it, or will you just walk away going, "That was crazy, man"?
But then there's talks of taking psychedelics opens your third eye, so you're able to be
yeah.
influenced by these, or you're actually able to open your thoughts enough to accept the information that is being presented. Like, it's a whole
It
other.
sounds like some fantasy rubbish.
It's a whole other conversation in the time.
I've
Yeah.
never leaned into that kind of stuff.
I'm not a huge person who believes in like stuff like that necessarily, or like
Yeah.
all these people who go like, "Oh, aliens abducted me" and blah blah blah. Like, no, they
No,
haven't.
I think they're all full of shit.
Yeah, I think that being
Like-
abducted by aliens is. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's hoax stories.
Yeah.
But
You're just an idiot. Like.
it's
yeah,
not.
like maybe you just had a realistic dream about it, you know, like you
Yeah.
get like really realistic dreams sometimes.
Actually, like I brought this up last time we talked about it. Like my brother had a dream that he was seeing numbers fly. It wasn't a dream; he was awake.
Yeah,
It was
we
a-
did talk
yeah.
about this. Yeah.
Yeah. And like
Yeah.
he saw numbers fly around the room, and I walked in the room, and he
Mm.
genuinely thought I was an alien because that
In
can
an-
happen.
In another
Yeah.
podcast, guys, go and check it out on the
Yeah.
website.
And but he was awake, and he
Yeah.
saw an alien, which was
Yeah.
me.
Well, there's an actual like I won't talk about it again because we did talk about it in the other podcast. So, yeah,
But like, it certainly explains why some
Mm.
people could think some things.
yeah,
Like like I've always probably backed science more than I have speculation. Like, don't get me wrong, I was Christian. Like I went to a Christian school. I was Christian for the first most part of my life.
Yeah.
yeah.
But since then, I think about science more than anything else, and like
Yeah.
I don't know. For me, math doesn't get it wrong.
Yeah.
Math
See,
is never wrong.
my opinion on it has always been that I think science, for the most part, is right, but there's just so many stuff, or they'll release something, and then a couple years down the line, or a decade down, or like a century down the line, they'll release a new statement saying like, "Well, that's actually
Disproving
not right.
Mm.
This is actually what's going on." So like,
What's to
That
say
to
in
me-
10
that
years
to
that
me-
everything's going to be flipped on
Exactly.
its head?
that's
yeah.
exactly
Yeah.
like the general relativity theory that
The
Einstein
what?
came up with.
The what?
Yeah, yeah. Go away.
General relativity,
like,
yeah.
There was I think it's called Planet X. They used to
Yeah.
think that because Mercury had a gravitational wobble or whatever you call it,
Mm.
and they thought there was a planet pulling on it. So for I don't know how long, it was decades probably, where they thought there has to be a planet like pulling it away from the sun.
Mm.
And then Einstein comes along and says, well, no, actually that's not true. It's actually that the sun isn't actually pulling the objects, it's bending the space around it.
Yeah.
And that is what's
With gravity.
pulling in.
Creating like a
that-
funnel of space time, yeah.
But that's
Yeah.
exactly. Do you see my point though? Like that's why I'm always like
Hmm.
when they release something, unless I can see it myself, I'm a little bit skeptical on it.
So
Because-
everything
well-
can be proven differently.
But see, the thing
Yes,
is
because
that
everything can be proven in a different way. Like a lot of the timing stuff that they have, like I just
Like
don't
carbon
physically
dating and
see.
stuff.
I
Yeah,
just
yeah, the
physically
carbon
don't
dating,
see how they can date that stuff.
I
Like-
I think the thing with science that I generally lean to is it science fact, and that being
Hmm.
science fact is a very rare thing.
Mm.
Yeah. Well, see, a
Like-
lot of science is theory. Like you will,
Yeah.
like everything, like it's general relative theory. You know, so even
It's a
that could be
theory.
disproven different one, because there are some places, I think there's one in Canada where gravity just works really weird.
I've seen that. Yeah.
Yeah, you've seen it, yeah. And like, I don't know if Einstein's theory explains that or not, but to me that just seems like something that we just don't understand with physics yet.
Yeah.
So
They'll
that's why I
theorise it,
think that Einstein's theory could be either proven to have an extension built onto it somewhere, or completely overthrown down the line. You know,
and it very well could be, because at the end of the day, a lot of what science is you have a guess and you
it's a
try
guessing
and prove.
game. It's a guessing game with trying to prove it.
Yeah.
You know,
Like you come up with an idea and then you try to prove that idea, and you might prove that idea, but then 20 dudes might prove you wrong.
Exactly.
Like take vaccinations. You know, you have 20,000
Let's not get into that.
things that say, hey, you know, 20,000 articles that say this works, and then you have a couple that say it doesn't. Doesn't mean that the ones that say it doesn't are necessarily wrong. It just means that they're outweighed.
Well, see, it also depends on how, because a scientist releases a report when they do a finding.
It's a paper. A paper.
On that, like a paper. Like some scientists will lean into the positives of it, while others will lean into the negatives of it, and that's how the media splits it. That's how they get you.
They try to find.
That's how they get you.
Yeah, that's how they get you. Watch out, they're always watching.
Science, planets, and all that shit. It's a crazy concept to talk about, because you can't. It's such a hard topic to say. Right, we're going to talk about a planet, and then like stay talking about a planet, because it all connects so.
Yeah, everything connects too well for it to not mesh together.
And we don't know enough to like actually. I can't sit here and say I know this. This is what's going to happen.
Theories and topics.
100%.
Purely speculation that could go on for years.
Yeah,
I guess that's what they're doing now, is trying to prove the idea.
Look,
I respect.
On what I was saying before, I respect science a lot, because they are trying to basically give us facts about stuff, but there's just the stuff that they're trying to discover is just so hard to get it right, because the mass involved and the size and capacity of the human brain they just don't quite match, if you know what I mean.
They're too weak.
Like, while we are the smartest thing on this planet,
are we?
Well, it is debatable.
I look at people sometimes and I truly wonder.
That's fair. That is fair.
Anyway.
But
Yeah, well, we are going a little bit over time, but still, we're still worth talking about. I'm sure we can think of some more stuff to talk about in the next installment of the Wingin' It podcast. In the intro, you guys obviously heard we got 2 sponsors now, not only esports certified, but Rogue Energy. Check out the links down below.
Yeah, boys.
Thank you guys for watching. Thanks guys for coming onto the show again. I'm sure it'll be good in the next one. We'll see you guys later. See you guys.
See ya.